because now the recording has started. But I'm Ann Adams. I'm the network coordinator for Maine Early Childhood Outdoors. My co-host today is Jessica Labby, who's the director at the Village Nest, a cooperative preschool in Elliott, Maine. I'm going to remind everyone, because some folks are still coming in, please mute your audio. And if you're moving about and doing other things, please turn your camera off so that it's not distracting to others. Today for this webinar, we are going to utilize the chat feature. We're a fairly big group, and so we're going to use the chat feature, and we're also going to use the raise hand feature of Zoom, so that if we are sharing out or talking,
mute audio.
Do so in a, let's see, mute. Down on the left-hand corner of your screen, there should be a square that says audio. You
I see that.
You should be able to. There we go. We got it. For right now, I encourage you to introduce yourself in the chat. We're not going to introduce everyone because there's lots of us joining, but please go ahead into the chat and name and your Wendy and your location or program. That would be really helpful, just so everyone can see who's here, who's joining. Wonderful. And I'm going to open up tonight with just a little bit of information about why we're here and what's sort of happening. So, because there's sort of two things happening at the same time. So, as most of you know, we ran a gear mini grant program recently, and we had an overwhelming response to that, which is wonderful. And we are thrilled to hear so many childcare programs in the state of Maine interested in getting their children outdoors more, and also identifying the fact that there is a barrier around weather and also accessibility to proper gear so that we can be outside in Maine with our children. And so we had 415 applications, which is a lot. And we did acquire a bit more funding after we got that many applications, but still we were only able to award 32 grants. So if you do the math, we were really in a tricky situation. But so I wanted to offer some context to everybody on that, because first of all, everybody who applied, we read all of the applications, and we are also in the process of collecting data from those applications. So even if you applied and you didn't get the grant, you are still contributing to an advocacy effort now that MaineECO is taking on to advocate for more funding for gear in a variety of different ways and to solve this problem for you. So I really appreciate everyone who applied and gave us your information, your goals, what you're looking for, and what you want to do outside with children, and why you need gear for that. So I really appreciate that. There are recipients of the grant are required to be here tonight, and then it was opened up to everybody as a resource. The reason why we want to share the information we're going to share with you all tonight is because we want to start educating childcare providers about really what is outdoor gear for young children, what is high quality outdoor gear, what's really going to work for you, so that we're not wasting when you do have money to buy gear, we're not wasting that money. And gear is an investment. You want to make sure that you get the right type, and so it's going to serve the purpose that you want. You want it to last a long time. It can be expensive, but there's also ways to get discounts, use a wholesale account, and bring the cost down. So there's some information tonight about that as well. And we just felt like this information is really important for everybody. Our grant recipients are in the, now they're sort of on the hot seat, because we are really looking to them to demonstrate how gear can support their outdoor adventures with children, and how gear can enhance their outdoor program. So we want to offer support to them around what gear they're going to order, but we also open that support to everybody. So in the grant process, we invite everyone to sort of join us in this process as well. So right now, grant recipients are gathering information about what kind of gear and learning about gear so that they can decide what to order. And MaineECO is a support in that. We will offer technical assistance on what to order and how to order it. And we want to open that up to other people as well. So even if you didn't get grant money, but you're in a position to buy some gear and you would like some help, then please don't hesitate to reach out, because we can absolutely offer the technical assistance. And that's not just for right now. Say in the spring you're looking to order gear, or you're looking at a different point down the road, then please feel free to use the resources that we're going to offer today, and reach out for technical assistance if you need it. That's available for everybody, not just the grant recipients. For grant recipients who are on, the phase is that you're here tonight, and then there will be some information about the payment process, and then ordering, and MaineECO will reach out after the webinar to follow up on that process. But that's a little bit of context around this webinar and who's here and whatnot. I also just want to say that our steering committee, MaineECO's steering committee, is gathering now, and they're the ones who help to read all the applications and score all the applications, and now are starting to gather data from them. And we are gathering that data. We've been asked from some funders to gather that data so that we can start to present it to people who may be able to make a difference on this issue. So in January, we're looking at January, maybe convening some folks from, so they might be funders, they might be state organizations like OCFS or the Department of Education, providers certainly, and other nonprofit organizations we're gonna gather them together and share this data and try to come up with some solutions on how we can get more gear out to childcare programs. The collaborators so far tonight, who are sort of helped with today's webinar, are the Maine Environmental Education Association, and they're our sort of sister organization. They work primarily K to 12, but they have a wealth of resources and support to offer. And Maine Gear Share is also a collaborator today and will be moving forward. Maine Gear Share is a library loan, gear library loan program. And while that doesn't work for childcare programs that need gear every single day, they are, again, they have a lot of resources around gear, gear storage and repair. And they also have warehouses that they can use to sort of store gear and to gather gear. They may be able to help with some gear donations. And so they'll be collaborators moving forward with us as well. So all that to say, MaineECO really appreciates everyone applying and being here today, and taking these steps to get children outside. And we definitely hear you. We hear that there is a need. We hear that everybody needs support around this, and we are going to do the best we can to get some more support on that. So we'll talk a little bit more as we move along, but that is the welcome. And I don't know if Olivia. I don't see Olivia.
I haven't seen her hop on yet.
She's at a conference, so no problem. Olivia Grissett is the director of MIA, the Maine Environmental Education Association, and Emily McGowan is a representative from Maine Gear Share, who also may pop on later as well. They were both traveling today, so here we are. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. The format is that Jess and I are going to go through some content for you. And again, I want to encourage you to use the chat for two things. One, certainly for questions, but also if you have, you're doing this already, I'm sure many of you have information around gear. So there are times that you can chime in with what's working for you, or what experiences you have, and please share that with others. This is a community of folks who can gain resources from each other. So along the way, feel free to chime in the chat, and just raise your hand if you have something that you want to add vocally. Let's see. I share my screen. hang with me just for a moment.
Participants can now see your
Sorry about that. I have a Zoom friend who chimes in every now and then with play-by-play analysis of what's happening. Let's see. So can everybody see the screen? Yes. Okay. I'm gonna skip forward a bit because I've talked about most of this. Mia, MaineECO, main gear share. Okay. So the first part that the first sort of section of content that I want to run through with everybody are really some specifics about gear. I'm sure many of you have heard the saying "no bad weather, only bad clothes," but that's sort of a broad statement that we all we definitely believe in, and yet there's a lot more. There's nuances to that, right? When we say only bad clothes, right? So what does that mean, and what are good clothes for outside? And you're going to hear throughout this that there is a thread, there is a continuum, right? You're all up against limited resources. And also now you're going to have the knowledge of what the best gear is and what it costs. And we're constantly doing this balancing act of sort of, okay, if I have limited resources, what are the most important things that I need? And where do we want to splurge and spend the money that's needed? And where can we sort of cut corners and make do with what we have, right? So there may be times that you hear us talking about things that you're like, well, I can't afford that, or I can't do that, and that's okay. This is just to gain the knowledge, and then you can sort out sort of what you can afford and prioritize what the best gear might be. So I'm going to run through what we considered weather hazards in Maine and what we really want to be paying attention to, layering and materials. Along the way, we're considering the age of children that we're working with. This webinar is primarily focused on 0 to 5, but there's more information about older children as well. Tips and tricks for getting dressed, which I'm sure you all can offer more than I can this afternoon. And again, where you can sort of where you need to spend and where you can cut corners a bit. So when we're talking about cold weather, we're really paying very close attention to the layers that we're using and the specific material. When we're talking about wet, any precipitation, whether it's falling from the sky or we're encountering it on the ground, then we're talking about waterproof layers. Wind is a factor that we absolutely need to be considering because it does impact how we're feeling. And then sun exposure as well is something that we encounter in Maine. We're going to talk about UPF clothing and hats as well. So here's so we're going to start out with dressing for cold weather and thinking about the layers. This is a graphic that could be shared with parents or with fellow teachers as an easy way to think about how many layers children should have on. Right? Remembering that when you get out there, you can always take layers off, but you can't always add them back on if you're already out there and you don't have it with you. And this graphic, along with some additional explanation, is available in a resource folder that I will offer to everybody through a link at the end. But essentially, you can see we've got chilly, cold, and extra cold, and the varying level of layers that need to be put on children as you're moving outdoors in these temperatures. It is absolutely safe to go outside and play in temperatures that are, 0 to 15. But we do need to pay attention to what children are wearing and how they're moving. Again, the age, so non-mobile children, infants and toddlers who aren't moving yet, they're not generating a lot of body heat. And so they need more layers and more caution, right? Children in the 3 to 5 range who are really active and moving around, sometimes they need less layers, or they layer up and then you see that they're peeling them off as they're playing. So here are the specific layers. We have base layers, we have mid layers, and we have outer layers. And so base layers, primarily merino wool is the best material that you can have for a base layer. And some things to consider around merino wool. The reason why it's so good, or there's a number of reasons, but one, it has the warming of, it absolutely keeps you warm the way all wool does, but it is softer and more comfortable. It's not itchy. And so that's why it's the chosen wool for this. It also has moisture wicking properties, so it's going to pull the sweat off of children's bodies and get it away from their skin so their skin's not feeling wet. It's also self-cleaning and antibacterial has antibacterial properties. So in fact, merino wool base layers do not need to be washed as much as we think they need to be. Washing is not actually great. We'll talk about that a little later. Some things to watch out for. So products will be called wool. You might see wool socks, wool base layers. You want to look closely at the content of wool. So there are many wool socks that you'll find out there that may have only somewhere between 15 and 30% wool. And the rest is, nylon, polyester, cotton. Sometimes it's a mix of material. So what we're looking for actually is 50% or higher, right? And we'll recommend some brands later, but there's many brands who have 80 to 90%. Jess, you want to add in?
Yeah. So with this, if it says it has any cotton in it, do not use it as a base layer. Cotton will absorb moisture and make you cold. Cotton is the number one hardest fabric in the winter, and it will make children colder and makes them unable to regulate their own temperature. So socks, base layers, you want to avoid cotton at all costs.
Perfect. Thank you, Jess.
No problem.
And so I do want to add that there are other materials. There are definitely base layers that are made of synthetic materials, primarily polyester, and those may be purchased for a number of reasons. One, they're sometimes cheaper, but not always. So pay attention to the pricing there. But some children may find them more comfortable. So especially if you're working with children with some sensory issues or children with special needs, sometimes you need to play around with these materials that are right up against children's skin because they may have preferences. And again, as something that is a polyester, blend or something like that will be fine for a base layer if a child prefers that or if that's what you have. Again, avoid cotton at all costs if you can. So that mid layer, again, so the mid layer is this, it's between the outer, it's over the base layer. Fleece is a great material. Again, the problem with cotton as a mid layer is just that it's sort of bulky and bunchy sometimes, but many children will be wearing cotton mid layers because that's what they have. I will say a hooded sweatshirt is not ideal because the hood sticks out the back. And first of all, it becomes really bunchy around the neck when you add in other things like neckies and hats. But that hood, it's sort of bopping around in the back. It often gets wet and or dirty, and just not ideal. So hoods on that mid layer, not great. Fleece or synthetic mid layers are often less bunchy. Not to say that, cotton can be at the mid layer, but it's just may not be as comfortable. And then the outer layers, we're going to get into waterproofing in just a second, but essentially outer layers are where we're seeing waterproof, windproof materials and where you want that insulation, whether it's down insulation or some other material, but that's that external layer. So these are your layers. This is what you're thinking about for cold. You're using that graphic from before in terms of how many layers you should have. And then you're using this guide for what those layers should be made of. So waterproof 101, again, much like the merino wool, there is a lot of information here that maybe you know and maybe you don't, but pay attention to water resistant versus waterproof. An example of this in Maine is that LL Bean does not offer a waterproof suit for children. Their rain gear is water resistant, but the elements that we're out and about in, it's not helping us. You will get wet very quickly in water resistant clothing. So you're really looking for waterproof. Now, rubber is 100% waterproof, but if you wear a rubber suit, you're going to be wet because you're so sweaty and that doesn't feel good with your skin. So breathability is the next factor, right? And so companies have created rain gear that is this 3-layer construction, as you can see, which provides optimal waterproof, keep the water out, and at the same time allowing moisture and vapor to move out from the inside, right? So precipitation can't get in, but sweat and moisture can get out. and that's the ideal thing that the ideal material that you're looking for is often some sort of 2 or 3 layer construction. And when you read closely around gear, the descriptions will talk about this when you start to get into the fine print of looking at gear. Polyurethane coated fabric is a common material that you'll see for these suits. Also pay attention to the seam taping. So fully taped seams versus critically taped seams. So you want to look for fully taped seams. These are, that means that every seam on the entire garment is taped from the inside, is going to keep water out. Critically taped seams means they've only taped in the areas that they feel are most risky. So maybe around the neck is taped, maybe by the sleeves or arms, but the entire thing is not taped. So we're looking for fully taped seams on the rain garments. Wind. So all waterproof garments will be windproof, but not all windproof garments are waterproof. So pay attention to the language around that. Again, most of our children are needing to be in waterproof gear. And so you don't really need to worry about the, if they're in their suits and they have that waterproof outer layer, then they're also in a windproof garment. But just for adults to know, there are some great garments out there that are sort of more lightweight and also have wind resistant qualities. So you can find those. They're like a wind resistant fleece or a lighter jacket that's wind resistant that can be comfortable for adults. And then finally, sun exposure. Brief, you can see the graphic. It explains it pretty easily, the difference between SPF and UPF. We want to be paying attention to UPF and specifically UVA and UVB both we want protection from. So UVB are the rays from the sun that cause our skin to burn, and UVA rays are the rays that cause damage to our skin that can cause wrinkles and also things like cancer and all of that. So we want to protect from both. When you're looking at sun clothing, you want to look for UPF blockage. So UPF 50 will block 98% of the UV rays, and then so you want to 50 would be a great number to go for. Anything higher than that would be awesome. Anything lower than that may not be meeting your needs. Okay? And SPF is just sunscreen that is only protecting your skin from burning for a period of time. So I'm going to ask Jess to join me on this one, but after I've sort of so those are some details about when you're shopping for gear, how to understand the language that to really pay close attention to make sure you're getting what you want. When we talk about brands, there's so many brands out there, right? And this is not in any way a comprehensive list. And we will also, in our resource folder, there is a document that will have more brands and a little bit more description. On this slide, we don't have, everything sort of panned out, but there will be a document that has more detail. And again, this can be very personal as well. There may be brands that you love, that you fall in love with, that work really well for you. Great. There may be brands that I use that may not be the brand that I use, but it works. So there's definitely a personal. You want to, if you find something you love that's working, great, stick with it. But if not, if you're new to this or you're looking to buy, then here are some places to start. Jess, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, first of all, I'm so excited to be here with all of you. Thank you so much, Anne, for having me. This is so many more participants than I thought. So I'm excited to meet you all today. So when we're talking about warmth, really in talking about things to skimp on, things not to skimp on, your snow pants and snow jackets are really inconsequential as long as you have a waterproof layer over them. So I personally tell our families not to spend a ton of money on the snow pants and the snow jackets because we're going to have a waterproof layer over when we're layering. We often will put the Helly Hansen rain suits or Oki rain suits over top to keep everything dry. So that's one area. Also, the fleece layer, that mid layer, another area where you can usually skimp on. But you really want to make sure that your base layers and your outer layer are top of the line. That's where you're going to lose all your warmth. So for warmth, we usually recommend Helly Hansen for rain gear and snow gear because it's waterproof, not water resistant. It's waterproof. Rima Boulder gear also waterproof. And with Rima, Helly Hansen, and Boulder gear, usually you can skip adding a rain suit over it, so it does help with that. For base layers, Oki has the, especially with the wholesale discount, which we'll talk about later, Oki has the cheapest sets of base layers. However, there is a brand called Cuddle Duds that you can get at Kohl's and Walmart that they make polyester base layers, and they're actually marketed as pajamas, but they work great as a base layer. 100% polyester, so they don't, it works for those kids who can't really wear wool because it makes them uncomfortable. It can be a sensory issue. For mittens, I always recommend the gauntlet style mittens, so they go up past just the wrist, especially for how many times they take them off and put them back on. They take them off a lot less if you have gauntlet style mittens. Stons is the most waterproof brand. They also offer an amazing wholesale discount. They're 100% waterproof. They have fleece lining. They cinch at the wrist and at the elbow. So two places where you can tighten and keep the kids' hands in and warm. Snow Stoppers are also a great brand. They offer a discount as well if you reach out to them. And truly, Oki, the thing I love about them is that their wholesale discount makes them the cheapest across the board for gear, and their gear is mostly very decent, though I will say the one piece rain suits are not super waterproof. They are water resistant, not waterproof. Their two pieces are more waterproof. So you can go with like the bibs or the rain pants that go to the waist, and the jackets that they have, they're waterproof. When we're talking about other brands that work really well, Grundens is always a great brand. However, they do not have the smaller sizes. Stons does have rain gear as well, and they're pretty inexpensive. And we didn't put anything about boots on here, but Boggs and Oki neoprene boots are our go-to for my school for winter, because you can layer your socks underneath them and put fleece lining and whatnot inside the Boggs boots. So it makes it easier to layer for the children who might need an extra layer in their boots. And then for UPF clothing, my go-to is always Coolie Bar. Coolie Bar has an amazing wholesale discount as well. In Maine, we have one distributor for the entire state to set up our wholesale account. And she's great. She's amazing to work with. As for other UPF clothing, Columbia has a great product. And if you can get to one of the Columbia outlet stores, they usually have great discounts, especially on lightweight hiking pants for children. And yeah, those are our favorite brands and why.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jess. There's as Jess, you could hear her sort of running through the nuances of different brands. And there's almost always, there are some trade-offs, right? Like you might want to buy these because they're discounted and they're wholesale, and yet maybe they don't quite meet what you're looking for. But you love a brand, but it's not discounted, So you're sort of weighing some options there. But certainly, and I did put this in the chat, but I will send out the resource folder, which will have a list of brands. And I think when you're shopping, one of the most important things is to maybe check against that list and just see like, okay, where are we? Because there's some information I put on there, like around socks, like the Darn Tough socks are, they're great because they have this seam. They're really comfortable for children who are sensitive with seams or bunchy socks. but their merino wool factor is only like 45%, right? So it's a trade-off there, right? You may get those socks because they fit your children great and they love them. Not quite the content of merino wool that you want, but you're balancing that out. Darn Tough also takes them back if they ever get a hole in them. So you can just send them back and get a new pair. So there's a number of brands that also offer, like Patagonia has a repair service. And so you're just sort of considering a lot of different factors when you're choosing the brand, and we'll give you a guide for that. And please, I invite you to put in the chat brands that you're having experiences with, good or bad. If you've tried something, and it's not working, then that's just as valuable as something that is. On the Grundens rain pants, I know sometimes they're great in terms of being waterproof. Sometimes they don't fit quite right. Their sizing is, as Jess said, is a little bit funky, and they have these really long straps, so some children are not super comfortable in them. So it's little things like that. Like if you've tried anything, go ahead and throw it in the chat because it's super helpful for us to gather that information.
A little fun fact too, because I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat talking about Oki, those adult rain suits that they just started to offer. My team actually got to test them. We were the first to actually have the adult rain suits and test them out, and we are the reason that they now have pockets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. Teacher gear definitely needs pockets. And Sarah, I think if we had to name, if Jess and I probably had to name one rain suit that we were going to go with, it would probably be Oki. If you're looking for the one-piece suit, but there's a lot of the Rima and the Palermo Perrette and the Grundens are two-piece. Those are bib style with jackets. Rima might have a suit as well, but those are, that's our top recommendation, probably. We had to name one. So here's just some things to consider when you're thinking about trying to spend less money, because you don't have a lot of money to spend. Again, Jess said, spend the most on those base layers and the outer layers, definitely. And then, sorry, I've got some things in my way here. One thing to consider, though, is around quantity, not quality, when it comes to things like mittens. It's something that we hear a lot around. So mittens are getting drenched. If you're playing in water in cold temperatures and children are really they're just getting wet, no matter how, there are some amazingly waterproof mittens that really will stay dry, but eventually they'll get wet. If you submerge them, they're going to get wet, right? So when you're talking about having backup gloves or mittens, sometimes that is a time when you go on Amazon, you just buy the cheapest waterproof mittens that you can find, but you've got 15 pairs of them, right? So you can sort of cycle through if you need to, because sometimes their hands just need to get dry, and that's an option. So there's a moment where you may consider getting, more of something that is less quality, but you're using it in a way that's just about keeping children's hands dry. And then while I'm talking about gloves and mittens, in that regard, there's the over mittens, which we talked about. I just want to recommend that fishing supply stores like Hamilton Marine are great places to go. They almost always have kids gear, and they make these fishing gloves that are great for shoulder season. So one complaint that we get about the over mittens is that they're bunchy and they're sort of hard to use, right? They're in terms of getting into fine motor play for children. They do make these fisherman gloves. I don't even know the brand of them. They're just fisherman gloves, and they are waterproof. They are the rubberized material, but they're gloves, and children can do a lot more with their hands. They're not warm, and they won't go over a pair of gloves, so they won't work in the winter. But for the shoulder seasons, when it's just chilly and they're playing in water, check out Hamilton Marine for those fisherman gloves. They're a great resource. There we go. So we wanted to also just take time to mention quickly that gearing up for outdoors is absolutely a part of your curriculum, and it's something that should be taken seriously as a time in your day to connect with children and also for them to practice skills and have learning. No, who's unmuted there, but, have learning moments around, those self-help skills, sequencing, creating the sequence in which we put gear on every time, helping each other. If you have children who are really good at gearing up, then they're helping the ones who are not. There's a ton of opportunities for social emotional learning and cognitive development as well as relationship building. So this is a time when, if at all possible, you as the care provider are getting right into that moment with children, right? For me, when it's like circle time. Like, I would never during circle time stand up and go walk somewhere else and decide that that's the time to clean the tables or that's the time to go take care of other things. Like, that's the time that I'm with children. And I think about the gearing up time is the time that I am with children. I'm sitting right on my stool. I'm available to talk them through what they're doing. I'm making sure that they are buttoned up and tucked in and comfortable in their gear. And that's about relationship building. It's about valuing that time. It will also decrease the stress of that moment. So make time for it in your schedule. See it as a learning moment. And most importantly, connect with children during that time. Have fun. Sing songs. That this is a time that we should be excited. We're headed outside and to take the stress. It should not be a moment that is stressful and panicky and rushed because that's not setting the tone for enjoying the outdoors. Right? And this can be a real challenge. I know time is tight in our schedules. We have 100 things to do, and it's sometimes not intuitive to think about this time of gearing up as a time that we should be really present and with the children. But I want you to start to think about that in your schedule and think about shifting your gear, shifting your way of being with children in those moments. All right, caring for your gear. So once you have gear, and also if parents are bringing gear in and leaving it at your center, then here's some information about getting the most out of your investment and taking care of it. Jess, you want to chime in?
Sure, I can do that. So storage is very important for gear. You want to make sure that all of your gear is completely dry when you're storing it so it doesn't get moldy. You also want to make sure that gear that is regularly used is hung up right side out with ventilation for easy drying. A lot of us in Maine, we have wood stoves, radiators. It's great to put gear near those to help dry it out at night rather than throwing it through the dryer. If you can avoid putting it through the washer and dryer as much as possible, it will last a lot longer. So you want to make sure with that. Another tip, and this is something I actually learned last year after 20 years of doing this, storing your gear for the summer for all the humid months with newspaper in it. So you just put some newspaper inside the mittens or in your boots, inside your jacket. Newspaper will actually wick any moisture that is developed in the humidity. So it helps keep the gear dry all year long. It's my big tip. Newspaper, use it. It's great. For drying and organizing, again, hang your rain gear whenever you can, rather than bunching it up, just trying to keep it as dry as possible. If you're going to put it through the dryer, make sure it's a low heat, especially for snow gear or anything that has waterproof material. You want to make sure that's at a low heat and not a high heat. Otherwise, it could melt it. It could compromise the waterproofing. It's just not great to run it through the dryer if you can avoid it. Boot dryers are very effective for boots and mittens. Again, with mittens, another trick is the newspaper right inside. It will help with the moisture. Drying racks are also a great way for ventilation and to dry them. And you can store in cubbies as well, but just know you're not going to get as much ventilation in a cubby. So it could stay wet longer. that happens sometimes. When you're washing outdoor gear, you want to make sure that you're not washing it every time you use it. Limit the amount of times you're washing it. A rinse outside in a hose or in a sink or tub with cold water is perfectly acceptable. Really, when you need to, though, when it's caked with mud, definitely you should probably run it through something. Try not to use detergent if it's waterproof gear. Detergent actually affects the waterproofing. Wool items, again, you want to minimize how many times you're washing them. I can wear, for me personally, as a grown up, can wear the same pair of base layers for 2 or 3 days before I throw it through the wash. It does have an antimicrobial property that helps it stay fresh. And then if you're putting it in the washing machine, make sure it's a front load washing machine and doesn't have an agitator. This is especially important for any gear that has down in it. If you have like a down parka or down jackets for kids, do not put those in to a washing machine that has an agitator. It will destroy them. So you want to make sure not to put them in something with an agitator. And then when we're talking about repair, there's a lot of different ways to repair gear. Oftentimes I recommend secondhand shops for gear to some of my families, like just double check. And even if it has small tears in it, you can usually replace, like fix the tear. We do a lot of our own repairs at Village Nest, including for base layers and wool socks. We will felt patches on that gear. It doesn't take very long. It's a great fine motor activity for children. You can get just wool fleece to use for it. It's pretty inexpensive, and you can use stencils so they can make like a star patch on their tiny rip or whatnot. It's really fun to do with the kids. As soon as there's a rip in a jacket or pants, you want to make sure to cover that so that the inside doesn't come outside. You can use tenacious tape. The no-sew patches are great. In a pinch, you can use duct tape and run it through the dryer on low heat. It will help. It adheres to the fabric really well that way. You can also reach out to Maine Gear Share. They do a lot of repairs themselves. Patagonia has their own repair service. Anne had already talked about how you can send Darn Tough socks back. LL Bean will replace things for up to a year after purchasing now. Boots usually can't be repaired, but especially if you're going with bogs can be sent back. They have a boot return program, and they'll send you a voucher for your next pair. It's not 100%, but they do give you a percentage back for the boots because they recycle them. Did that cover everything, Anne?
I think so. Yeah. A couple other tips. So the newspaper and the paper towel tubes also really helpful when you're trying to dry gear quickly. I think that that's something that's coming up a lot for folks, right? You've gone out one day and the next day you're going to be right back at it and everything is absolutely soaked and it's still raining or it's still wet outside and we're just trying to dry things really quickly. So, putting paper towel tubes inside of mittens, using newspaper in boots and mittens to get them to dry out faster is a good trick. There's a conversation that I hear both sides of around winter boots and the fleece liner versus the bog style boots that don't have a liner. So the bog style boots are technically waterproof, so they should be dry. But if they do get wet, like someone's gone all the way in, they're hard to dry out because there's nothing that removes. You just have to wait for all that material to dry. Versus the winter boot that has those removable liners that you can you can take out and they'll dry faster. They shouldn't go in the dryer, but they will dry faster out by some sort of heat source. Or you can have multiple pairs of those liners. So you can change out. I know that I think LL Bean even sells just the liners. So you can have one pair of boots with 2 or 3 different liners and change the liners out. So
it also makes the liners and they're $11 with the wholesale discount.
Oh, Perfect. Thank you, Jess.
Yeah, no problem.
So that's a good thing to consider when you're trying to get dry boots quickly. I know that some folks really love the bog boots and they're great. I love them too. And at the same time, this option with removable liners that can be changed out is a great way to address the drying issue when we're trying to quickly dry gear.
What was the company that made those liners? That she just
Stonz,
Thank-
Stonz, and they have
Right, great.
you can create a wholesale account with them, which we're going to talk about real soon.
Just
Great,
in a second.
thanks.
So really quick, I just wanted to, have a nod for the ways in which we can fund these gears. And I know that so many people didn't get our grant. So I wanted to say, one, we will offer it again next year, hopefully with more funding. And two, there's a 5210 mini grant program open right now until November 30th. That's for $1,000 and that can be used for outdoor gear as well. There's a flyer for it in the resource folder. There's some money coming down from the state that has to do with childcare supplements and grants or quality rating bumps. All of that money can be used for outdoor gear. It doesn't explicitly say that in the letter or in the descriptions, right? It says the funds are, for X, Y, and Z purposes. But there are many programs that are using that money for outdoor gear. And we've checked in with OCFS and with the state. It's totally fine. You can use that money for gear if you'd like. There's also a conversation around just making sure that you budget for outdoor gear. If you're a play-based program, then outdoor gear is standard school supply. It should be sort of in your budget in some way, just like we include art supplies and chairs and tables and stool, things like that. So it's just a consideration. I know we're in a conversation with Maine Gear Share about possibly promoting some donation drives or gear swaps. Those are things that you can do at your center as well, or your site. I know that takes time and energy. Often we don't have the resources to run those types of gear swaps or programs. Sometimes you might have a stellar parent volunteer who will do that for you, but and it's a great resource if you can pull it off. It's certainly on our list of possible solutions. And of course, secondhand shopping. Again, it takes time, right? You're going to secondhand stores and you're sifting through what they have available. But if you have someone available to do that, then it's a good option. Wholesale accounts. Go ahead, Jess.
So a little backstory. I opened VNC during the pandemic, and with very little notice, the program I was at before closed down. All of our families were like, what are we going to do? I knew I had to do something fast. So in that process, I didn't open the school with a lot of money. I basically I had just been laid off from my job. So I was like, okay, I got to do this fast, and I have really nothing to start up. So I reached out to a lot of companies about setting up wholesale accounts so that this could be affordable for families. And I didn't realize how many of these companies will offer discounts to outdoor schools. They're also very, very passionate, as you can imagine, about outdoor education. So they want to work with us. Oki, I would say, definitely gives the best discount. It's 50% off. It's amazing. Every single product on their website is available at 50% off. The trick with Oki, though, is that seasonally items kind of disappear and aren't in stock. So if you're trying to get things off season, you're probably not going to have good luck with availability. I also usually will reach out to Oki ahead of time and be like, what do you have the most of in what color, so that I can make a bulk order decision that way. Helly Hansen offers a 20% discount to outdoor schools through their scholarship program. You do have to reach out on their website and they'll assign you what they call a distributor, and the distributor will help you find a location close to you where you can pick up your Helly Hansen orders. That is to all the things on their website too. You can get adult gear as well as children's gear through Helly Hansen. Their base layers are wonderful. They're just very expensive. Stonz also offers about a 40% discount. It kind of fluctuates a little bit. You can get boots through Stans. They have great rain boots. You can get mittens. They're our favorite mittens because they're 100% waterproof and they have great lining. Again, the gauntlet style mittens. But you can also get one-piece rain suits through them. They have really cool bucket hats for the summer that are very inexpensive. Lots of other gear through Stans as well. And if you're looking for infant gear and 1-year-old gear, Stans is going to be your go-to. They're one of the only outdoor gear companies that actually sells infant gear. So Stans for infant gear. And then Coolie Bar actually offers a 60% discount on all of their UPF clothing. And that's again for adults and children, including their bucket hats, any of their they have the hats with the do you know what they're called? And they have the protection in the back too. I can't really remember what they're called, but they have the neck protection essentially. So Coolie Bar is a great discount, but it's exclusively UPF clothing. Then you can reach out to Outdoor School Shop. They have sales. They also will offer discounts if you set up an account with them. So you can have for a month at a time, they'll set up a shop for you, and all of that gear that you put into there is offered at 15%. You get to tell them what you want for gear. And that's great for families if you're having families pay for the gear, because they can just go on to your shop through Outdoor School Shop and order what you've told them you need them to order. You do have to be wary about minimum orders. For Oki, it's $300. Helly Hansen does not have a minimum. Stans is $300, and Coolie Bar is $300. So it's relatively low for most companies. I would also say check the bottom of websites. So if there is another company that you're looking to work for, check to see if they have a wholesale representative. It'll be down at the bottom right next to the fine print. It's always down super low. So you want to look for that, and they will link you with your local representative for that. And Anne wrote it beautifully. Human interaction is going to be your best way to get your lowest prices for all of your gear. So reach out, keep asking, you will find help. And I know we're not really talking about this, but look for wholesale on other things too, like bug spray and sunscreen. There are many companies that will offer wholesale discounts. We buy a lot of that stuff as outdoor educators. So do yourself a favor and set up as many wholesale accounts as you can. It will definitely help.
And this is something that we're happy to help you with. So if you're thinking okay, yeah, I want to do that, and I have no idea, that feels too hard, or I don't have time for this, feel free to reach out, and we can set you up with someone who can talk you through it and just offer some support if that would be helpful. So finally, I will share, I put this in the chat, but I will share a folder with everyone probably by Monday with the recording, with the slides from today's, it's dark, so I think it's nighttime, the slides from this presentation, as well as a number of different resources around brands, the layering graphics that you can share with families. The grant opportunity from 5210 is in there. We've also included a weather chart that has some pretty detailed information about what weather you're encountering and what gear you want to be considering or making sure your children are in so that you can play for prolonged periods of time. So I'll be sending that out. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and come back. We are right on time with 3 minutes to spare. Not a whole lot of time for conversation here, but I really appreciate everyone who's put things in the chat. And we hope that the goal for this was that you just might start to have some knowledge about gear. So as you venture out into ordering, whether you have a grant or you're doing it on your own, that you can really be a wise consumer and that you are getting what you need for what you want to do and serving your children and families. But we do have a couple minutes, so if there's anyone who wants to chime in, you have a burning question, feel free to pop in. I see that Ann Steyer's joined us too. Hi, Ann. Thank you. Ann is from the board of Maine Gear Share and has joined us here tonight.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, I would love to chime in. My name's Zach Klein. I'm from the Quimby Family Foundation and also serve on the board for Maine Gear Share. Really proud funder of Maine Early Childhood Outdoors. And I got a chance to talk to Anne about the demand and the results from the mini grant offering. And I just want to share with you that it's really a powerful response from just the seat I sit in of what's happening in nature-based learning across the state. The number of operators like you in the state to make a big impact on how families feel about getting outdoors clearly is a major contribution to, I think, like the cascade of events that could happen with those families, those communities, the schools they affect, the leaders they're in touch with. So I'm very excited about this. I plan to be sharing this news with colleagues, our board, both at the foundation and elsewhere, and just wanted to give you a real boost of confidence that we're going to create some wind at your back.
Yeah, can I just echo that just quickly, just because this has been, Zach and I have been talking about this since Maine Gear Share began, is sort of thinking about how early childhood could be involved in this. And that was even pre Maine Early Childhood Outdoors. So it's just really exciting to see all of you. And I'm happy to, be a sounding board for folks too, both from the Maine Gear Share perspective and doing early childhood outdoors stuff. This is just exciting. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you, and thank you, Zach, for joining. I hadn't seen that you had popped on, so thanks for both chiming in. And Olivia is here now too. Olivia is representing me. I did introduce you in the beginning, Olivia, but you hadn't joined yet. So we have a number of great partners on this, and we want to support you. So please don't struggle through this work, gearing your children up appropriately for Maine's weather, which is now becoming even more interesting. Is a challenge, but it is something that we absolutely need to address so that we can get our children outdoors more. So we're here to help.
There was a question in the chat about what counties Maine Gear Share services, and I don't know the answer to that. So I'm hoping maybe Anne or Zach could answer that question.
Yeah, there's not a definition around that, mostly because our members and then our other rental clients travel to our facility to pick up. Right now, that's in Brunswick. We're looking at some moves that could bring us to Portland. I don't want to put that out there too far. But I would also want to lift up that the Maine Gear Share has been helping to convene a network of outdoor gear libraries, and maybe that's something that we could share more information on. We're joined by another half dozen of usually small outfits in different contexts, sometimes public libraries, sometimes nonprofit startup. And that probably covers half the counties. Those are based in probably, maybe 5 or 6 of the counties in Maine. I think that's a pretty complete response. It's all by pickup. We have dreams of delivery with rental, but I also understand in your context, renting stuff isn't the most convenient when it comes to apparel. I think an intriguing question would be what sets of equipment for this audience, for early childhood, would be very appealing to have on an intermittent basis through a community gear library.
Like snowshoes, lots of people were talking about snowshoes in the application, so that could be a consideration. But we
Tubbs offers a wholesale discount for snowshoes.
Thank you, Jess.
No problem.
If you're ever wondering how to get a discount, just contact Jess. I will say that Maine Gear Share has a great website with contact information. Emily McGowan is who we work with primarily, but any of all of their emails are listed there. So if you have questions or want to learn more about Maine Gear Share, then you hop right on their website, and it's included on the resource page as well. But they can give you more information. So I want to respect everyone's time and close. Thank you very much for joining us. I'll be following up next week with all the resources, and look forward to supporting you in getting your kids outside. So thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
very useful, very exciting
Thank you.
to see this focus. I love it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Thank you. Get inside. Go, go, go.
So at the height of this, there were